There are a bunch of different ways to make money as a producer, so I thought I'd make a video sitting down and ranking them. I've got some experience in this. I've done all of this stuff in this video. What I care about the most is barrier to entry, how quickly you can make the first $100, and how well you can maintain that source of income. I organize each of these in the amount of experience I have. So starting on the left is session musician. I've done this a few times, but enough to add it to the list. As a session musician, you're the one playing the instrument, but you don't have to come up with the ideas. Someone else hands you a piece of music or a MIDI file and they say, hey, can you play this thing, record it? It's something you can do with like zero following, and there's not a lot of upfront cost to it, but it really is about the connections, like who you know. You might end up getting a call from a friend saying, hey, can you record this thing for me? A huge part of it is the upfront skill that you have to have. You've got to be good enough to record this stuff and it to sound good. It's more of a high ticket thing. You definitely can get $100 from it in the first place. So for that, I'm gonna put it in the C tier. Making that $100 right away is pretty good. It's not a ton of work compared to the amount of money you get. Oh yeah, selling loops. So this is very similar to session musician, but when you're selling loops, you record the music ideas. You come up with the melodies yourself. Very similar to session musician, but you don't have to have the same amount of connections as a session musician. So I'm putting that in B tier. You may have heard of a guy named Kyle Beats. Kyle Beats, he had a podcast, and on that podcast, there was a theme song. And way back when I was starting YouTube, I said, you know, it would be a good idea for a video. I'm going to remix the Kyle Beats podcast theme, but I'm going to record it with trumpet. And so it was like a cover sort of thing. So I posted that on my channel, and it didn't even get views, but it was enough to get his attention. And he was like, hey, just send me some trumpet loops. So I sent him some loops and I got paid for it. That's the majority of my experience selling loops. I would definitely put it above session musician. All right, next is mixing vocals. I'm gonna put that in C tier. If you know how to produce music, it is very similar. You're using similar tools, it's just auto-tune and like slicing, and it's nothing you probably haven't figured out already. But it's a custom thing. You're working on something that is specifically for one project. And it's also something that's really hard to get into. It can be time consuming. So I'm leaving it there. Next, we have beat collabs. This is something that I did right before my YouTube started popping off. It was like the last thing I really tried focusing on. And I had a lot of success compared to the amount of work I put into it. So for that, I'm putting it in A tier. Beat collabs is really a part of selling beats. People who want to make songs, release songs, and don't know how to produce music, they can go to like a website and just buy a song that doesn't have any lyrics on it, and they just sing over the top of it. There are people who are definitely the top sellers on those websites, and what you can do is reach out to them, send them an email, here's some melodies, some loops, send like 30 seconds, 45 seconds of melodies and stuff. And if they're good enough, they'll release the beat and then you'll get some money from it. This is something that has like almost no barrier to entry, but you do have to split the money. It's up to the other person to just be like cool about like splitting the money. There's a chance that you could get ripped off. But what's great is you don't really have to work with other people. You don't have to work around their schedules. Next, we've got custom beats. This is when someone says, hey, can you make a beat specifically for me? I don't want one that's on one of these beat websites. I just want you to make a song that sounds like X, Y, and Z. I used to put beats up on this channel and people would message me like, hey, can you make a beat for me? This might be a little controversial, but I'm gonna put it in D tier. This is maybe the worst form of income. And here's why. You kind of need a following to be able to do this, and it's not something you can start today because other people have to approach you. If you work with the wrong people and you're not smart about it, you could not get paid on the first beat you make. And it's like very custom. You have to work around with people. You have to get feedback. It doesn't have a lot going for it. The only thing that could move it into C tier is working with the right people and really just being able to be paid on the first one. All right, teaching lessons. This is an amazing form of income. It is recurring every single week, giving lessons on like an instrument or in music production. If you have the right setup, you can also do it online. It really has a lot going for it. And for that, I'm gonna put it in B tier. it's a good B tier way of making money. The thing with lessons is like you have to work around schedules. You can't really start today, and you have to be really good at a specific thing. So like an instrument, for example. But you get paid on the first one. You don't have to make changes or do feedback or anything like that. It's not long before you can make like $100 just doing that. Maybe 2 lessons or 1 lesson before you can get $100, depending on your skill level, of course. What's keeping it from going up here is it's not really something you could start today. It's really hard to start doing. Once you get like a few students, it's really good. I know of a few people who make enough to live just through teaching like a handful of students. Next, we've got the music streams, the music platforms. So this is probably what most people think you make money through music. They're like, hey, don't you get paid from like Spotify? And well, the answer is not really. Not a lot. Unless you're getting like consistently 100,000 plays or 1 million plays, it's really not a lot of money. You can start it today, but you're not making $100 anytime soon, unless you have like a really big following already. It is, however, recurring. Once you put out the song, people will listen to it over and over again. All right, so you don't have to work with people. So already it is A, B, or S tier. But because it takes like a ton of plays to actually make that money, I think it's going to go right about here. It's not as great as it would seem, but if you do get it going, you don't have to work with a ton of people if you're just putting out music by yourself. Next, we've got selling beats online. This is having a BeatStars account and posting beats on there, putting beats on your YouTube, posting stuff on your Instagram. Hey, new beat out. Go buy it. I think this is a C tier. Right about here. Let me tell you why. You can definitely do this with no following, and you can start today. You don't need the connections. So it has kind of a low barrier of entry, but it does have an upfront cost. You do have to register if you're going to go through BeatStars, and it's like $180. And there's a chance that you don't get paid on the first one. So you can end up making beats that no one buys, and you're not making your money back. You're not getting anything for the time you're putting in. It is, however, a little bit recurring, and you have a bit of autonomy with it. You don't have to like work with other people, and it's not really custom. So you can sell the same thing to multiple people. You don't have to make specific beats for one person. All right, next we've got sample packs. This is like making sound design stuff. So like a drum hit or like a melodic sound. I have a website where I sell sample packs. I sell currently 1 at the moment, but I did start out giving them away for free. I released a few for free and kind of read the room, see how much you guys like it, and then I just said, hey, you know what? I'm gonna make an actual product, and I'm going to put it on a website. So if we're talking barrier to entry, I actually did that whole process in 1 week. So it's not like it took forever to set up, but it was a lot of late nights, and it had a lot of upfront costs. I don't think I actually broke even on it for like a couple weeks of it being out. But the amazing thing is you get paid on the first one that you sell, and it's not long before you can make $100, and it's a little bit recurring. It's not like tied to how much I'm working. It's kind of tied to the YouTube and like how well the YouTube is doing, more people seeing that. So it's not necessarily tied to the hours I'm putting in. And so for that, it is S tier. Not everyone can do that. Like you really do need an audience. You need to build it somewhere else. That's the only reason that it would go to A tier, but I still think that it is S tier. And now for the one that I have the most experience in is YouTube. So I started this channel in like 2019 selling beats, and I put up my first like video in 2020, like the very beginning. It was like January of 2020. YouTube can take a really long time to get going, and that really just comes down to your skill, how quickly you're able to pick up the YouTube skills. For YouTube, the barrier of entry is both really high and kind of low. You don't have to pay money to post your videos on YouTube. You don't need connections. You can start today. You can upload a video today, and you can start with 0 subscribers and eventually build your way up. But with YouTube, you don't really get paid on the first one. No. And it takes a long time before you can get to the point where you start making money. But it has something that most of these don't have, and that's an ability to grow for itself. With all of these, they're kind of tied to the amount of work you put in. So I'm moving YouTube to second in the S tier, and here is why. It promotes your videos. You don't have to like work with other people. You can just post it from your room. And in that aspect, it is amazing. All right, I think that's a good list. I'm okay with this. That's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.